Well, good evening, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, you know this does not work without you guys. All right, so the schedule is officially out, and at the moment, it looks like the NFL is planning on having a season. We heard today that Roger Goodell basically told teams not to get into hypotheticals and things like that, to send questions, comments, and things like that, basically to the NFL, and that they're beginning to actually open up facilities with social distancing in mind, reduce capacity and things like that. And you can best believe that the NFL, being the business that they're in, that they will find a way to get testing done and antibodies, and hell, they probably will come up with their own cure to make sure that there's a season. They'll find a way to do this safely as possible, but there will be a season. Um, so, looking at the schedule, I actually really like the schedule. Now, if you go by win-loss records from last year, um, strength of schedule wise, from what happened last year, the Cowboys have the third easiest schedule in the NFL. That's always great. You always like to have a cake schedule, although you do need to have some challenges in there to make sure that you're actually ready to play against good teams. Now, I will caution you, of course, that half of the teams that made the playoffs last year won't make it typically this year. So a lot of teams that we deemed really good teams will probably not be as well. Now, currently on Twitter, Ryan Clark is actually getting killed because everybody's making fun of him, saying basically, oh, because he said the 49ers are going to go 10-6. Well, to be quite honest with you, I was sitting there going through the numbers of the last 10 Super Bowl champions. And what's interesting is, or excuse me, Super Bowl teams. What's interesting is how teams fare after going to the Super Bowl. Very few of them actually matched the record that they had. Actually, in typical fashion, they actually, on average, dropped down about 10 games from the year before. Excuse me, 3 games from the year before. I was doing this as research because the Eagles, those dudes figure that they are the greatest team since sliced bread, and that they are head and shoulders above everybody else, that they're going to run away with the division, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm doing some research on past Super Bowl teams and seeing what the trend is 4 years out from being a Super Bowl champion. You're not going to like what I've come up with, Eagles. You're really not going to like. I'm telling you, you're not going to like it. But you know, you might be the one that's going to buck the trend. Oh, by the way, Eagles, you do know that nobody's repeated in the division back to back since you did in 2003, 2004. You know that, right? Because that's another one of those trends that you'll have to buck as well, which hasn't happened. We've had Super Bowl champions that don't win it the next year. So just putting that out there. So Eagles fans, slow your roll, okay? We get it. You won the Super Bowl finally a few years ago. But right now, everybody's 0-0, and nobody knows jack about what the team's going to do. But I will say that your team has been trending down since that Super Bowl. But be that as it may. The thing I like about the schedule for the Cowboys is there's no killer section in this schedule. You know, where you look at it and say, oh my God, December is like all teams that are, winning records or something like that, are tough games. It looks like everything is actually mixed up pretty well for the Cowboys, and this could actually stack up well for them. Now, I always say the first month of the season, don't get too excited or don't get too depressed by what you see, because that first month of the season, you'll see teams that come out and look like, they're headed straight for the Super Bowl, and they crash and burn. You'll have teams that start out slow that all of a sudden catch fire towards the later part of the season and get hot at the right time. So you don't really know much about the first part of the season. Super Bowls aren't won then. It can be kind of lost, though, if you get to a bad start. I talked earlier today about Jason Garrett has to be the biggest anomaly out there, because typically when you win your first game, your odds of making the Super Bowl are better, except for the Dallas Cowboys. When we've won the first game of the season under Jason Garrett, we never make the playoffs. Every time we've lost it, we've made the playoffs. Go figure. It's just crazy. But I like that we're opening up against the Rams in that new stadium. Now they're going to be motivated, of course, because it's their new stadium. I lost. Oh, there we go. They're going to be motivated because it's their new stadium and stuff. But they no longer have the horses that they had. And again, this is another one of those cases when you look at teams that have gone to the Super Bowl, they trend with the exception of New England. New England is the only thing, and they kind of skew the results. But what happens is a year, 2 years, 3 years out from the Super Bowl is the teams literally go downhill. Think about when Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl. They have been in the garbage ever since. Think about when Denver won it. They've been in the garbage ever since. It's hard to maintain that edge except for New England. Now it'll be interesting if New England can continue that momentum without Tom Brady. I'm actually betting that they still win their division, which is going to be crazy because a lot of people are saying they're going to be in the basement. I wouldn't bet against Bill Belichick ever. But to have the Rams on the road, I think that that's a winnable game. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's a winnable game. You know, if there's crowds out there, you know there's going to be as many Cowboy fans there as Ram fans if there are fans in the stands. And then the next week we play the Falcons. The Falcons still aren't that great of a team. We've got the doo-doo Browns and then the Giants. You have an opportunity right there that you should be able to go 3-1 at worst to start the season. That would be great to start having some momentum and to actually get yourself some breathing room. You could even go 4-0 with the talent you have. I'm sorry, I messed that up. Seahawks are in there. The Giants are after that. I'm sorry, you should be able to go 3-1 in that stretch. Then your next games are Giants, Cardinals, Redskins, and Eagles. I can see us going at least 3-1. The Giants stink, the Cardinals stink, the Redskins stink, and we got the Eagles. Now, the last 4 games, we're 3-1 against the Eagles. I think we're going to split with the Eagles this year, but who knows? Maybe we sweep them again. This is where it gets interesting because you have the Steelers, and you don't know what you're going to get with the Steelers, with Big Ben. You got the Vikings, the Redskins, and the Ravens. This is probably the toughest stretch for the Cowboys because you've got 2 of those games on the road. You got the Redskins on Thanksgiving, and then you play the Ravens the following week. That's going to be tough. That's the part where you're going to say, you know, at best, you hope that you go 2-2. But the Vikings may come downhill, come back down the hill. It's Kirk Cousins. The Steelers, like I said, you don't know. The Redskins you got. Ravens will be tough on the road. And then the final month. Bengals, slump buster. 49ers, that'll be tough, but I think the 49ers are going to come back down to earth. The Super Bowl hangover. And you got the Eagles, grudge match in Philadelphia. I'm sorry, at home. And then you got the Giants to finish the season. It's definitely not the worst schedule out there, at least not at the moment. The worst games you look on there and you say, Baltimore will be rough. That's going to be a tough one. San Francisco could be a tough one. At Seattle, that's another one. That's, you know, those are your 3 toughest games is the way I look at it. You got the Eagles twice, of course. You know, that's a grudge match. But then you look at the rest of that, you know, the Eagles and the Rams I kind of put really about the same category. I really don't think that the Eagles are going to be that great. I don't think the Eagles will be better than 9-7. If you go by the statistics, they won't be. And, you know, when you're talking about the Falcons, the Browns, the Giants, the Redskins, the Cardinals, the Bengals, you got some cake games that are in there. So, at the moment, I feel really good about the schedule. Now, what I don't feel good about is the fact that we are still not finished getting Dak Prescott's contract. That's the one thing that gives me pause because the Cowboys have an advantage right now in having a new coaching staff because teams know what the Dallas Cowboys used to be able to do. They knew the schemes. They knew what the Dallas Cowboys were going to do because the Dallas Cowboys offense was not that complex. Des Bryant had about 5 different routes, and he always on the outside. Never moved him around much. Did very little pre-snap motion. You didn't disguise much. Basically, it was just like, we're just going to line up and we're just going to go man on man. Well, you got to put a little trickery in there. You got to put some play action. You got to mix some things up so people don't know where you're going to be. And this is where Mike McCarthy, it's going to be great. Because we don't have to be a hell of a lot better than what we were. Understand, if we had gotten a couple interceptions or fumbles here and there, had we been able to kick a few more kicks here and there, maybe if we had a few less bad calls against us, like tripping, we're 10-6 or 11-5. It literally was that close. Now, where you need to have an edge is, you need your quarterback in there learning this system and all these new players as much as possible. We may have a shortened off season here. We already don't have the OTAs. We may not have a long training camp. So it behooves you to get them together right now to get working on this. Make no mistake about it. We have improved the talent across the board on this team. From kicker to wide receivers to defensive line. Everywhere we have backups. You have players, but you can derail the season. You can make it ugly by not getting this contract done. I'm excited about the season, and I'm hoping, oh, Lordy, damn. That's Philly 500 calling. Right now. Right now. That's him calling me. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn out the lights. I'm going to cuss him out. And then I will see you first thing in the morning. Yeah, Philly. I got something for you, buddy. I'm Mark Holmes, and stay safe. I'll see you in the morning. Whew. So ends another day. Yep.